Language.
Forgot to start the recording.
I'm feeling better all the time.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Fright Night Show. My name is Johnny Black, the great monster killer. With me, as always, is Mad Anthony, Wolfman Dan, and Mistress V. So grab your favorite drink, sit back, relax, and let's get dark.
Welcome to Fright Night. For real.
On this exclusive episode of the Fright Night Show, we are bringing you a once-in-a-lifetime event. In celebration of Fright Night's 35th anniversary, we present to you Screen Meets Stage as we bring together stars of one of the greatest 80s horror films with the actors that portrayed their characters in the 2018 stage adaptation. Our first extra special guest today is Oscar-nominated actor Chris Sarandon. Chris is best known for his roles in Dog Day Afternoon, Princess Bride, as the voice of Jack Skellington, and of course as vampire Jerry Dandridge in Fright Night. Next, we have writer, producer, actor Jonathan Stark, co-creator of the Emmy-nominated sitcom According to Jim. Jonathan has also starred in such films as Project X, House 2, and as the vampire's faithful day watcher Billy Cole in Fright Night. Plus, we have the return of playwright James Michael Schoberg. As head of Pennsylvania's Rage of the Stage Players, his 2018 stage adaptation of Fright Night has helped a new generation discover this classic horror film. Joining him are the Rage Players, film and television actor Brian Sopanis, who starred as Jerry Dandridge in the Fright Night stage rendition, and Rage of the Stage veteran Ryan Ott, who reprised the role of Billy Cole. Hey, please give a big Fright fan welcome to all of our guests.
Welcome, everybody. How are you tonight? How are you this afternoon? How are you?
Good.
Great.
When you put those two pictures of 35 years ago and today together, it's just depressing.
I can't. I don't want to say anything that'll incriminate me at this point. I wanted this. I really just want to start with Jim. Jim, you created the Fright Night play at the Pittsburgh Theater Company, Rage of the Stage Players, for the Fright Night play. And how was this? Okay, sorry, a little nervous. My bad. Okay, so when you first started doing this play, what made you want to, get started on this? I know you love Fright Night. You're a big fan. What made you want to proceed to do this? Is it because nobody else has done it before, or?
Well, it's actually not the first horror movie that I've adapted for this stage, and the other was a smaller independent film. And however, I do pride myself on being pretty ambitious, and I have always been a diehard Fright Night fan. I mean, it's like my favorite horror movie. So yeah, I decided I'm a fan of the long shot, and I have pretty good luck on the long shot. So I talked to Tom Holland. He was incredibly receptive, and so we kind of went from there. And I knew how daunting it was going to be and what a task was ahead of me to adapt something with such amazing special effects, and on the scale that Fright Night was, even for 1985. But I was up to it. And I also, as a fan, I really wanted to be the one to adapt it, because I wanted it to be in the hands of a fan. A lot of times when things are adapted, they just haphazardly make changes and whatnot. And when I adapted it, I made sure that it was built on Tom's original script. And then I just expanded from there where it needed to be expanded or fleshed out with characters for theatrical purposes.
And how hard? Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that was fun. That was pretty much my impetus.
Okay. Great. How hard was it to find the cast, and how long did it take for your play adaptation?
Fright Night, it was a long road. It really was. It was 2 years in the making because when we originally had it set, we couldn't find the ideal venue for it. And so we had to postpone it. And so not only did I have an amazing cast, but I had to convince them to hold on for another year when I could have lost them all. And but I tell you, I had a fantastic cast. They were dedicated. They understood the opportunity that they had, and they held on. And I was fortunate because Ryan has been with me for a while now. I've worked with him. I think he's an amazing actor. I love writing for him because I mean he expresses my work, I think, very, very well. And so it was a gimme. I really wanted him to play Billy because I thought he'd bring like a unique twist to it for the stage.
Right.
And Brian, just as the two examples that are in front of us, Brian, I really thought I was going to have to beg him to do this because we're a not-for-profit voluntary organization, and he is a la-di-da paid actor. Right. And so I got down on my hands and knees and I took his hand. And, I basically said, Brian,
did you give him a diamond ring as well?
I just it's impossible. I mean, I know. Just Chris needs his ego stroked even more. I mean, people tell him all the time how much they love Jerry Dandridge, but I mean, how do you even mimic that on stage? How do you get something that's comparable, but yet it gives it a new twist and a new character? And Brian was the single person that I wanted. Other people who had sort of, come into my line of sight. No one nailed it the way that Brian did. And the best part of all is Brian actually applied for a short promotional shoot we were doing for Fright Night. He didn't submit for the role of Jerry Dandridge. And as soon as I saw his headshot, I said, I sent him a message right away. And I said, I have a question for you. Would you possibly be interested in another project? And it went from there. He auditioned and he was amazing, and two together had just stellar chemistry as Jerry and Billy. And when it comes to the rest of the cast, I mean, without going on and on, they were all just ideal. I kept my goal was to play in the spirit of Fright Night, but give it its own twists and turns because I wanted to introduce, as you mentioned, new fans to it, but all the diehard fans that came and walked through that door, I tried to see it through their eyes and think, what would I expect? What would I walking through say, now, how are they going to do this? How are they going to do that? And with the spirit, a lot of our characters, like Evil Ed, was more punked up a bit. And our Peter Vincent was a bearded gentleman. And a lot of people said he gave off like a Sebastian Cabot vibe. I didn't want to just force feed everyone the film because they could stay at home, watch it in the comfort of their own living room. The production value would be better and they'd be a lot more comfortable.
Right.
So I needed to give new audiences, I wanted to introduce it to them while all the diehard fans that came in put in a lot of Easter eggs and surprises that they'd never see coming. So it was new to them as well. So
okay. So how hard was it to get the rights to do this play, because the play is not much different than the movie, so there must have been some kind of strings you had to pull there?
Fortunately, having a direct line to Tom Holland sort of removed all of that for me. Okay. So so talking to Tom directly and his people, that they were all 100% about doing this. And of course, Tom keeps prodding me and saying, it would be great a musical of this. It'd be great a musical of this. And I keep saying to him, not everything needs to be a musical.
No.
Try it.
But he loved it. He was very receptive, and believe me, sending the writer of Fright Night the script for the play that you adapted, that you had the audacity to think that you could adapt, I was horrified. I kept thinking, oh no, he's going to get back to me and he's going to hate it. And then what am I going to do? but no, he really
It
liked
sounds like it sounds like things are going really well for you now. However, because of all this COVID crisis and the pandemic and everything, and the social distancing and the masks, how is it affecting you this year? I can't even imagine if a bunch of people got into a theater and a bunch of people were acting on stage in close quarters. That would seem to have an effect on what's going on with the 35th anniversary. This has got to be putting you down in the dumps just a little bit, right?
Well, we had a show planned that would be running right now,
Mm-hmm.
and earlier in the spring, my co-producer Carrie kept saying, she kept saying, Jim, you have to brace yourself for the prospect that we're not going to be able to do our show, that we're going to have to postpone it. And of course, I'm like, well, what are the chances of that going to happen? This is going to pass. It has to pass. Worldwide plague, that's the stuff of fiction. There's no way.
Right.
And but unfortunately, she kept trying to brace me, and it wasn't sinking in because, like I said, long shot.
Right.
And but it doesn't always work.
Right.
And unfortunately, we have to postpone it for next year. And I'm kind of hoping things ease up because next year is my company's 20th anniversary.
So that's what I was going to ask you. It's your company's 20th anniversary. You want to celebrate the 35th, 36th anniversary of the Fright Night of Fright Night. Are you going to do something special for that? For that, are you going to give away souvenirs, T-shirts, or anything like that?
Well, right now, because of the absolute uncertainty of next year, I already have 3 live stream play readings scheduled. Mm-hmm. And so at the bare minimum, if nothing else comes about,
right,
we'll do those. I would like to continue. I'd like to push everything full production wise to October, and I have my fingers crossed. But I don't know. I mean, I had somebody approach me the other day about, this is what you guys should do about merchandising, and you should. And I said, yeah, but we're a theater company, not a store.
Right.
So, but as for the 35th, I did want to say that this year, because of COVID and so many things having to be canceled, I really wanted to make the effort not to have Fright Night's 35th be dampened by that, which is why I tried arrange other events, and we did the live stream reading of the play. Mm-hmm. And I'm so happy that this has become prevalent, the Zoom live streams and whatnot, because it makes it so much more personable.
Right.
Give the fans a more one-on-one access to their favorite stars, and it makes it possible for us to continue to celebrate these milestones without your hands up.
Right.
Giving up. So,
well, I wish the best of luck with you. I'm very sorry that the play is not going to be happening this year. I know that it was something that you were looking forward to. My sympathies on that. It is an amazing play. You have an amazing cast, and I wouldn't change anything. But I wanted to go to Brian and Ryan. You are playing Jerry Dandridge in the play, and Ryan, you are playing the vampire bodyguard, Billy Cole. And what kind of it? I'll start with Brian first because I can't ask 2 questions at once to 2 other people. So, Brian, what kind of advice did you get from Chris when he was this character in this epic horror film? What kind of advice did you get from him?
Well, I didn't really get anything directly, but I mean, just kind of knowing the story and what Chris did with the character in the film.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jim said, it's not like we wanted to necessarily emulate it directly, but taking absolute spirit of what Chris did with Jerry in the film and then putting our own little thumbprint on it and making it our own, I think is what we were looking to do. Jim and I talked about that a lot up at the beginning. Is like, we're going to do Fright Night and be very true to the story, but it's definitely going to be, our story in a sense, and our Jerry, if you will. So that's kind of how we approached it.
And that's great. It's just like when you sing in a band and you're doing cover songs. You want to try and make it your own because then it sounds way better than you trying to pretend to be something you're not.
Exactly.
Ryan, what kind of did you get any advice from Jonathan? Did Jonathan give you any advice to play this most difficult character that is a bit of a loner and very loyal to his master? So, did you get any advice on that?
The only advice I gave Ryan was when we actually did the reading. Right before it, I'd said, "Don't screw it up."
It worked.
Did it work? Did it work?
Yeah,
You looked him
job.
dead in the eyes. He said, "Hey, I'll backhand you like Charlie Brewster."
You better make me look good. Yeah, so I didn't have any advice before we did the show, but yeah, I got to meet Jonathan afterwards, and we did the play reading recently, so that was so exciting.
Right.
And John has been just such a great supporter. He's been super nice to me this whole time. He has no need to be, but he's been super awesome. I wanted to mention, he sent me this autographed photo, which it was just cool. The coolest thing to receive, and
awesome
having someone that was originating the role just be such a cool guy to you. It made the experience that much more special. And having done the reading with him, with the narrating, obviously I was like super nervous whenever we first were on together, and I called him like Mr. Stark, and I was just, being
he was probably
intimidated.
Like, call me John, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
By the way, Ryan, I still haven't seen that $30 for that picture.
It's coming, I swear.
Wow, you got a really good bargain for something so free.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I keep it in my office every day, so it's worth the $30.
Right.
But yeah, he super nice. It's been such a fun experience, and like Brian said, we didn't want to mimic the characters exactly, but I definitely had that inspiration from John, and I really loved the opportunity that Jim gave me with kind of expanding on the character a little bit and having something where I could just play with it from ground zero, and just it really was a dream come true. Even this, like, thank you guys for having us on here. I'm really excited to be talking to you. Chris, very nice meeting you. Very excited to talk to you. So thank you guys so much for having us.
Chris, he is a crazy fan of Nightmare Before Christmas. This is such a huge deal to him.
It is, yes.
So Chris, my question for you is, what is your outtake on how Brian is playing a character that you worked so hard to do? And in fact, when you were doing this character, you were making it your own. In fact, you even told Tom, I believe at one point, if I remember correctly, you said, I would like to play Jerry my way. And you actually came up with the idea to eat fruit, to not only be a blood vampire, but to be a fruit vampire as well. That's why we occasionally always see Jerry eating apples.
Right. The idea came to me. Well, first of all, can I just say very quickly to Brian, I'm thrilled to hear that you took your own take on the role. I don't think when you're doing something like this, you need to slavishly imitate the source. You need to do it your way, and I'm thrilled that you did it that way. That's the advice I would have given you had we had the conversation. As far as your question, Johnny, yeah, we were all encouraged by Tom to do research on our characters and do a background of the characters. And as I read about vampire bats, because that's the only research I could do that was scientific, I saw that something like 90% of the bats in the world are not bloodsuckers; they're fruit bats. And I thought it would be interesting if Jerry had some fruit bat in his background. And Tom loved the idea, and then we just kind of flew with it. We tried it in different places. He came up with that amazing shot of Jerry biting the apple and then flipping the apple at what's the kid's name again?
Charlie.
At Billy Ragsdale, and it rolling into the close-up of the huge bite out of the apple. I mean, that's the way we worked pretty much through the whole shoot, where we collaborate. It sounds like that's the kind of collaboration that you guys have when you do play.
Right. And so to you, Chris, Tom Holland wrote this script in 3 weeks, and during the time that he wrote this script, he laughed his butt off. He thought it was the funniest, greatest thing he ever wrote, and he sent you this script. And what was your first reaction when you saw that script?
I at the time I had done a lot of I'd done some major motion pictures, and I'd done some stuff for television, some big television specials, playing historical, to Tale of Two Cities and what have you. And I was pretty full of myself. And I'd done some Broadway, and so I get the script and I look at the title page, and it says Fright Night with the daggers at the bottom of the F and all that stuff.
Right.
And I said,
I love that part.
Jesus, I can't do a movie called Fright Night. It's I'm a high class actor. It was an offer just off the top. I didn't have to audition or anything, which was great. And so I figured I owe them the respect of reading the script and then passing on it. And and as soon as I picked it up and started reading within 5-10 pages, I was completely sucked in. I thought it was brilliantly constructed. I thought it was a wonderful script. The characters were very vivid and the lead character was.
And is it true that you looked at your wife at that time and you said, "I have to call this guy"?
Yeah, immediately. I said, I gotta meet this guy.
Mm-hmm.
So we arranged for me to fly out to LA and meet with Tom and Herb Chappie, the producer, and I sat down and we started talking, pleasantries, what have you. And then at some point, Tom says, "I want to describe the movie to you." Literally described it shot by shot, from the beginning to the end. He had it all in his head. And as he finished, I went, I'm in.
You knew it. You knew it was going to be a winner when you saw it, didn't you? You knew it. It was going to be a cult classic. I mean, obviously, that's one of the kinds of scripts and one of the kind of movies that when you read it, you know deep down in your heart, especially being an experienced actor and working in the field, you absolutely knew this was going to go somewhere. It had to go somewhere.
Yeah,
right.
You never know what ultimately the
outcome.
Audience reaction is going to be. But you have an idea of whether the writer and director, who's the same guy, know what they're doing and have a vision. And so I obviously had a vision, and I enlisted in that vision.
Now, so when you were doing this movie, how long did it take for that one scene? I know that the one guy that played Evil Ed, I can't remember his name.
Stephen Jeffries.
Stephen Jeffries. That's it. It was on the tip of my tongue. So I know that that scene where he went through the makeup and everything, it was a bit outrageous. There was a lot of things that went wrong. There were a lot of things that went right, but it took hours, maybe days, maybe weeks. But you also went through transformations yourself when Charlie stabbed your hand with a pencil and you spun around in a circle, and then all of a sudden your face changed, and then it went through like 4 or 5 different transformations. How long did that take? Did that take just as long as Stephen Jeffries' makeup?
I don't know if it took, that particular one took as long as Steve's, because that wasn't the full out kind of Nosferatu thing at the end of the movie. But it certainly took 4 or 5, 6 hours, something like that, because of his ears and fingers and an entire face appliance. And in those days, we're talking ancient times here.
I was a teenager in those ancient times.
The technology was much more primitive, and every piece literally had to be built onto your but the big makeup was at the end. That sort of complete transformation, which was everything, the head, the ears, the face, the hands, everything, that took 8 hours. And that was like a week, 2 weeks, somewhere in there, I can't remember now, of coming in at 4 o'clock in the morning. And FX makeup artist Kenny Diaz was sleeping in the makeup trailer because it was so friggin' early. And Kenny and I would, and he would start to work, and he would build the face, and I actually, because I come from the theater. I know some makeup. So I said, I'm going to go nuts here for 8 hours. Let me do something. So
Right.
me do the blending, makeup blending on the hands, and we got through it. I went to work from 4 a.m. to noon, makeup. And from noon, we worked until they couldn't work me anymore because I was chained to the oars. And then I got up the next day, basically same thing for however long it took to shoot that scene.
You got your bachelor's degree in performing arts in West Virginia University. You landed your first role when you got out of college as Dr. Tom Halverson. Is that correct?
Yeah.
In a teleseries called Guiding Light in the 1960s. Was this your first role, and were you expecting your first role to be on a soap opera?
No.
I
After I finished graduate school, I went to grad school as well. After I did grad school, I got a job in the theater in New Haven, Connecticut for a year, and then I went to New York. And when I went to New York, it just happened. This Guiding Light gig, and it was great because it paid the rent. My rent. Are you ready for this, guys? My rent for a 1-bedroom New York City apartment.
Yeah.
19, whatever. Was $275 a month.
Wow, that's pretty cheap.
And I made $275 per show, and I was guaranteed a show a week.
Oh, so you were basically struggling at the time.
Yeah. Absolutely. But it paid the rent, and the role was I was the guy who was in the surgical room scrubbing.
Yes.
The lead characters would walk through, and I'd go, "Good morning, doctor." That was my line.
They paid you $250 to say, "Good morning, doctor."
Chris, are you ever disappointed that you never found your big break?
That was going to be my next question. So I want to continue. I want to continue from there. Like you were in Guiding Light, and you had one line, and they paid you $250 for it. We've narrowed that down. So in the mid to 1970s, your acting career started to take off when you debuted in 2 movies: Thursday's Game in 1974 and Dog Day Afternoon in 1975 as Leon Shermer. That movie was actually based on a true story that happened in 1972. You were nominated for several different awards for that performance. From that point on, did you know deep in your heart you were going to do great things in the future?
Who knows what the
That's true.
Now, for God's sake, but any of us predicted what's going on now in time? No, absolutely not. So the answer is no. I didn't know that my future was guaranteed, and also I didn't go into this with the object of being a big movie star. I wanted to have a career as an actor, and to me, that's what I've had. I've done a lot of roles that have been extraordinarily challenging and interesting, but a lot of that is luck. Honestly,
yeah, you're blessed. You're absolutely blessed.
Yeah,
and you're deeply loved by a lot of people. And then later on, you starred in a movie called Princess Bride in 1987. You played Prince Humperdinck, one of my favorite characters. Sometimes you can even ask my cast. I'm a little bit like Prince Humperdinck. Were you concerned there was only a 2-year gap between that and Fright Night? Were you concerned that the fans might look at you and say, well, that's Jerry Dandridge from the popular movie Fright Night? Was that a concern of yours because there was such a short gap in between the 2 movies?
I think a lot of people have a misunderstanding about actors' careers. Very often, and it's been my experience, that basically, you're a free agent and you're working from job to job. I tell this story all the time. I have a daughter who's now in her 30s, but at the time she was probably, 5, 6 years old. And a friend were sitting in a pizza joint with the friend's mom, and they were talking about what their daddies do for a living, right? And the friend's mom said, "What does your daddy do?" And she said, "Oh, Daddy does wires in houses." And she said, "That's right. Daddy's an electrician." She turned to my daughter and she said, "You know what your daddy does, don't you?" And my daughter said, "Yeah, he looks for work." Most of the actors that I know, even the movie stars, that there was always a time in their career they were looking for work, and you will at times you'll be reading interviews with people who you consider to be big movie stars who just work all the time, and they'll tell you, "I had to go in and read for this director for this role. I had to fight for this part." It's a I don't want to make it sound like it's a horrible struggle, because it's not. We do it because it's a call. It's
right.
We have to do.
And anything you want in life, you have to fight for it. You have to keep pushing, because if you stop pushing, you're not going to get it. And I understand that more than anybody, because I wouldn't be here right now if I didn't push and fight for it.
Right.
I don't know, Brian. Things aren't looking good for you. That's like a hard road.
Saying all this stuff, and I'm just like, I'm like, yes, that's all we do.
I feel, I did feel a little lecture coming on. I still love you, Chris. So you were also the voice of Jack Skellington in The Nightmare Before Christmas in 1993. You did an amazing job, by the way. I know that you did not sing in that film, but I love the voice. I love the character. My family watches on Halloween and Christmas. What was it like working for Tim Burton and director Harry Selick?
Henry Selick.
Selick, yes.
Yeah. It was a great experience. Henry, who you guys probably also know from Coraline and James and the Giant Peach, master of stop-action animation, which is very different from the normal kind of animation that we think of, particularly computer animation. This is literally frame at a time. Artists, these amazing, extraordinary animation artists, manipulating figures on real small sets, creating this world, this amazing, extraordinary world. And my experience was essentially that I just would go to San Francisco, where the studio was, where they were shooting. Studio was a building, really, where they had all these little sets. And I would go there once every 3 or 4 months, and I'd record 2 or 3 scenes, and then they would animate to the scenes. And it was almost always Henry and me in the studio together by ourselves. Except for one time when Catherine O'Hara and I worked together to do the Jack and Sally scenes. And other than that, that was my experience. Over a period of 2 years, I went every 3 months and worked with Henry in the studio. And at the end, I felt that there was some of it that I needed to want to work on again. And Tim Burton felt the same way. So Tim and I got into the studio and we did some ADR, not a lot, but some, to do some work on some of the lines in the movie. And that was it. And the work with both Henry and Tim was wonderful, extraordinary, very collaborative, terrific work. I enjoyed it immensely.
Awesome. That sounds great. So I have a couple of fun questions for you right now. The last question is something that all of our fans want to know. And they actually want to know this question as well. So the first question is, when Fright Night 2 came out in 1988, did you find it amusing that you had a sister that wanted to avenge your death?
Actually, it wasn't really on my radar a lot, the second movie.
Yeah.
Tom wasn't involved. I had done the first one, and I felt we did a wonderful thing with the first one. And it wasn't a matter of my looking down on it or feeling that, why are they doing the second? Why do I have a sister? My part in it is done. And God bless them, full speed ahead.
What is the weirdest or craziest thing that you've received from a fan, like such as a gift or an email, or maybe they passed you a note in the classroom? What's the weirdest thing that you've ever seen a fan do for you?
Weird is I don't consider any fan reaction weird.
they're all
most memorable.
The most memorable, right?
Comes from
the most memorable.
and it comes from devotion to an idea that they have that they connect with the movie about. One of my favorite events was that years later I was in Los Angeles and I was shooting a movie, and I can't remember which. Again, I'm ancient now. I was in the house that we were renting at the time, and my family was outside doing something. My 2 kids, at the time I had 2 kids. And there was a cable guy working in the house to reconnect the cable. Something was wrong with it. And he was there literally like 6 hours. And I'm walking around the house, I'm doing stuff, I'm on the good this, and I'm that, right? And at the end of his work, he comes over to me and would sign the thing. And he comes up to me and he hands it to me. And as I'm signing, he says very quietly, "I'm surprised you come out in the daytime."
Did he hold up a cross when he said that Okay, well, Chris, thank you. That's yeah, and it makes sense. It makes sense. It's for the craft. You do it because you love it, and it's something my father always told me. If you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And a very smart man. So, John, you ready? I got some questions for you, my God. Now, John, in 1981, you were in a show called Dark Room. It was a television series that was much like The Twilight Zone. Was that your first role?
No, I did oh my God, I played a doctor on a show called Shannon. Remember?
Was your line "Good morning, doctor" as well?
No. Actually, the first thing I ever did was a soap opera. Like Chris, I had one line. It was General Hospital, and there was some kind of disease going around, whatever the town was, and I was supposed to come in and say something to the doctor about somebody's blood level. And I thought, I assumed, I didn't really watch soap operas, so I assumed it was really off the wall acting, like, yelling and being really intense. So I come in and I come in with my line and go, doctor, the blood levels are low. So I hear there's like a control room up in the very top of the studio with these steps. And Gloria Monty was this very small little woman, but she was tough as nails. I hear cut, and I hear clunk, 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 clunk down, coming down these steps, and I'm like, oh my God! And she looks at me and she says, "If you can't do it right, get out." So I did it right the second time, but that was my first actually acting job.
Yep. And so apparently you had a lot of fun.
On that? No.
Yeah. No. I was teasing you. I kind of figured that out.
Yeah. No.
So I just see him coming out as Charlie in House 2 and doing that line.
Yeah.
With that kind of enthusiasm.
Yeah.
When you received the script for Fright Night, what was your said to Chris before, knowing that it was written in 3 weeks, coming from a new director-writer?
Oh, I love that you think I received a script and I had.
You didn't?
No. I had an audition, which most actors get. Chris was a different story because I had an audition and just get over to Universal with Jackie Birch and Nancy Nair and they did give me part of the script to read. I don't think I read. They gave me the whole thing to read, but they said he's a big henchman, and I thought, well. I probably am going to have to I'm pretty tall. I'm 6'4", but I thought, I'm going to make myself bigger. So I put folded up socks in my shoes, probably a couple inches higher. And I put on about 6 or 7 shirts because I thought I'm going to be big. And, but it was like 95 outside. So I'm sitting in the waiting room waiting and just sweat pouring down my face. I told this to Jackie Birch. I just talked to her a couple of days ago. I told her this, and she got a kick out of it. But I came in and just read my part. In fact, the part I read was the part with Lieutenant Lennox.
Oh,
and
right.
Yeah, and I just thought, I was thinking, well, as an actor, you think, well, what would this guy what would be his motivation? Well, what would he want to try and do? And I thought, well, probably he'd want to try and make Charlie look like an idiot.
Exactly.
So he could laugh it off. The lieutenant would take him away. And so I did this whole thing. I came up with this and all that. It wasn't in the script, and I was like, okay, Charlie, okay. I just made it funny, and Tom really. I don't even think Tom was in there. I can't remember if he. I guess he was. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, I waited for They said, "Oh, you got the role," and of course, you don't hear from for a month. And as an actor, you think, "Well, I didn't get it." So I called Jackie Birch. No, you're still on. You're still. But I did this for 3 or 4 months because came in at the very beginning.
Right.
I was sure I wasn't going to get it, but I did.
But you did.
Tom liked what I did.
Too.
Tom liked.
We're all glad you did.
I love that's one of my favorite scenes when the detective is inside the house and he says there's a vampire in the basement, and then all of a sudden you hold up a cross with your fingers and you go.
Well, I think Tom really wanted to inject humor into the script, and he was very clear on that. And I wasn't really aware that he was that bent on doing some humor in it, but I think that's why I got the part.
So after accepting that role, you know, in the 1985 Fright Night as the character Billy Cole, the vampire's bodyguard, how deep did you have to get into that character, knowing that you were going to be sort of a loner, day watcher, loyal assistant of a serial killer vampire?
I just said the lines. Really? I mean, honestly, I have to say,
what the hell?
I have to say when I met Chris, well, first of all, I got the part, and I think we were at the Culver. I think I met Chris was on the Culver Studios when we were, because Tom taped out every set. He put tape on the. We taped out every set, and we had 2 weeks of rehearsal, which is unheard of in a show. And first of all, I was terrified. I was shaking when I met Chris because I was a big fan of Dog Day Afternoon, which I just watched about a month ago. And the one person of all those actors, and I mean, you got John Casal, you got great actors in that. Chris was the one that I was really like, I couldn't believe, I really thought he was that person. I really thought they grabbed this person off the street and they said, "Here, act." And, that's a tribute to how good he was in it and how good.
Yeah.
And so I was a little nervous, and he couldn't have been. I mean, he was just the best. And he said, let's write out some stuff so we have a history. And we wrote out, I don't know, 4 or 5 just line notebook pages of stuff of our history, and it was incredibly helpful. But I think the most helpful thing was just Chris was just a great guy, and it made me feel so welcome into it. You can sometimes deal with the star. And I mean, it was my first movie, so you can sometimes deal with stars, and they're not very. They can be not necessarily mean, but they're just kind of cold. Chris was amazing.
So did you feel like Fright Night has become pretty much almost like a overnight success, and it's been, and to this day it's been a cult classic. So popular it became a stage play in the Pittsburgh Theater Company in 2018. It was also a remake in 2011. Was it a shock to you that the character Billy Cole was not added into the remake? Were you shocked about that, or were you not surprised that they were just making it their own and doing it their own way?
Well, Tom was at one point talking about doing Fright Night 2. I think even when we were maybe doing the movie, I don't remember, but he said, if we do it, I want you to come back, but you're going to be naked on the stairs. All right, maybe I'll do whatever you want me to do. But that happened. It was fine. I really, and I watched when I watched the remake with they did 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, maybe longer. Bill Ragsdale and I went to see the movie, and we were the only 2 people in the audience at the time. And it was fine. I mean, I liked it. I thought you don't need Billy Cole in this. There's no reason to have him in it. It was fine the way it was. And then of course when Chris came on the screen, we were just hooting and hollering. But no, I didn't. I don't care.
the story kind of flip flop, because here you have Evil Ed trying to convince Charlie there's vampires instead of Charlie trying to convince Evil Ed that there's vampires. So it was like they did make it their own, but they also stayed true to the story, it seems.
Yeah, I you know a lot more about the movie than I do. I really, we did this. There's a podcast called Fright Night Minute.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know about it, but they go minute to minute with Fright Night. A whole half hour on each minute, and they said, "Hey, how about can you do this?" And I said, "I'll do a general thing, but I don't remember." 99% of the stuff I did or why I did it. I just kind of it was like, that's what actors do. You just kind of, you just kind of go minute to minute. And so I just did a general interview with them, but I don't remember too. But to that end, I do want to say one thing is that I sent out something, and I can't say much about it right now. But I will tell you exactly what I sent out that we are allowed to say. It says, stay tuned for a Halloween surprise for real. And that's all I can say right now, and we'll leave it at that.
Okay. Well, I look forward to holding out my bag and saying trick or treat, John. Put something in there.
Hey, Johnny,
I love how
can I jump in with a John story real quick?
Well, just 1 second. I have like a 2-part question, because I want everybody else to have a chance to ask questions, because we are running close to out of time. So, 2 years later, in 1987, you also started the movie House 2 as Charlie, which I told you before is that was an amazing character. What a fun character! I would love to have a best friend like that. He was Jesse in that movie. He was the character's Jesse's best friend. It looked like a fun role to play. Totally different character than Billy Cole.
It wasn't a role. I am a wisecracking jerk.
Oh, well, hey, you know what?
He's not lying.
He played himself. Was that sort? I mean, from flip-flopping from that character to that character, just being yourself, was that a breath of fresh air for you?
It was fun. I think every part I've done, other than the General Hospital part, was a breath of fresh air for me. I loved going from Billy, but even Billy in Fright Night was kind of a jerk, a wisecracking jerk, really.
Right.
So I guess that's the common thread in my characters.
So you also, in that movie in House 2, you also worked with John Ratzenberger, who is from Cheers, and he's a really funny guy and a brilliant actor. When you got this role as Wayne, the bartender in the 6th season of Cheers that appeared 1987 to 1988. After the release of House 2, what was it like seeing him again? I bet that was a great feeling.
It was good. I was also a writer on the show in the 10th season, so I knew him from there, and I knew John, and I felt like we were terrified. I was terrified to be on the show as an actor, because it was Cheers, so he was always real nice to me. And George I still I see quite often, because I do a lot of improv with his wife, Bernadette Burkett, who actually played Vera, her voice on the show. And it was a great group of people. They were wonderful, and they were very accepting of us when we were writers on it too.
John, I have 1,000 more questions to ask you. I love you. I love Chris, but I gotta turn it. We're running out of time. I gotta turn it over. Mad, I'm giving you the reins, my brother. Ask some questions. Ask these guys some questions.
I just got a couple simple questions. I'm busy trying to run a show here.
Okay. No, you're good. You're good. I wanted to give everybody a chance, so I don't want to.
I love both you guys. You were heroes of mine growing up. I'm going to go fangirl on you for just a minute. Fright Night and House 2 were two of my absolute favorite horror movies. Chris, for you, it's not even a Fright Night related question, actually. Your role as Jack Skellington. So how does it feel to know that millions of women all over the world have your character tattooed on their ass?
That is a really awesome question.
Asked and answered.
My wife has a Jack Skellington dress.
I just can't imagine. Horrible.
Right on. And with doing you kind of answered this with Johnny, but doing the animation versus doing a live role, the difference is there. How is that done? Do you have the video first and you sync up the voice to it, or they do the video to your voice track?
No, they do. They animate to the voice track.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's basically the difference is that you have a lot more latitude in terms of you don't have to be naturalistic because the medium itself, if you look at the visuals of that movie, they are fantastic. They're surreal, yes. They're unusual, they're wonderful, and so you have I think a wider latitude in terms of your behavior because you're doing things that normal human beings don't necessarily do. So it's great fun because you can use your imagination just to the nth degree. And also you have the choice of doing multiple takes at one time. Sometimes Henry would just look at me and say, "Oh, do that line 5 times differently each time."
And then they just pick the one they want.
Yeah.
Awesome. And for you, Jonathan, I'll be honest, House 2 is more of a favorite of mine. I absolutely love that movie. It was funny, just off the wall at times. You and I kind of touched on this in some of our conversation, but there was a point, in the movie where you and Royal Dano and Ari Gross are sitting downstairs, and Gramps is telling you guys about the old days, and you guys are just reveling in his stories. And I had said to you, I just imagined when I was watching that scene, you and Ari actually sitting there listening to Royal go on about his days in the film industry. So going from that point to now, you being a writer, actor, producer, how does it feel to be the old hat in the ring?
The very old hat in the ring. First, I wanted to say that Royal was like one of the great people, like Chris, just a great person to work with. And I remember saying to him, "Hey, Royal, I remember seeing you on Bonanza when I was a kid." And he goes, "Which one? I done 12 of them." He was just that kind of guy. I don't know, and I know Chris knows this too. You don't look back too much. You just kind of look forward to your next meal, really, and where you're going to work next. I'm still working. I'm not retired yet. I mean, my wife says I should retire, but I don't want to yet. So I'm writing a lot. I'm doing a lot of writing. And I did want to say really quickly too, and Chris, don't forget this. Make sure and tell them about your thing coming up on Halloween. Don't forget that.
Oh, right. Yeah. We're doing a virtual convention because they're all gone now, unfortunately. On Halloween, I guess it's Halloween Day, but you can check it off online. It's on my Facebook page, my Instagram page, where we're doing, Q&A and autographs and all that stuff that we normally do at conventions. So,
are you doing it with Billy and Amanda? Or?
Ken Page and me are doing Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh,
awesome!
Very cool.
And in November, Carrie Ellis and I are doing a Princess Bride one as well.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic.
Wow. Thank you, John.
Yeah, well, it would be nice someday. Hopefully, we can all, because the cast is we all just love each other, and we always just laugh all the time. And hopefully, once we get past this all, we can get together and hang out somewhere and have some laughs.
Amen.
Absolutely.
Amen.
That's all the questions I got for you, gentlemen. Again, I want to thank you for this opportunity and gracing our show with your presence.
Wolfman, you got some questions.
It's great to meet you all. I wish we had more time so I could ask everybody questions. I just have one for Chris and one for Jonathan. Chris, great to meet you, quote unquote. See you.
Same here.
Fright Night 2 is the first vampire movie that actually scared me that I remember as a kid. I'm 42 now, so I was pretty young when I saw it. But you and Jonathan got to work with Steve Johnson on the special effects in that. and the organic ability for the time back then. I still love those special effects more than anything that I see. That's not a knock against anybody else. But with the new wave of horror that's been coming out, you don't really see that a lot. And like with the scene with you and Amanda Bierce in the club where you're dancing, do you feel like in the new wave of horror we're kind of missing some of that ambiance and some of that passion and organic feel? Or
well, I think the more computers are doing the actor's work, the less it seems to be immediate and therefore an immediate connection with the audience. I mean, I think that's why, particularly that scene. There are a number of scenes, but that scene certainly, where there are not a lot of tricks. Basically, it's all in the camera. It's not done post after the movie's over and they go into the computer and do it. It was all live and basically done with Tom's vision of what this was going to look like, and then we just sort of we did it. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's so arresting, because that's what it is. You sense it when you watch it.
Yeah.
You sense it when you watch it.
To this day, those are some of the best scenes in any horror movie, or as far as makeup in general goes. So thank you, Chris. I really appreciate you answering my question.
Yeah, just watching Jonathan melt in front of our eyes. That was
awesome. I was just thinking about ice cream right now.
Jonathan, great to meet you again. Some of my best memories is my mom let me watch horror early. Whether people think that's a good thing or not, I don't know. I think it's a good thing. But House and House 2 were two of her favorite movies, and I watched them a lot as a kid. And going back and watching House 2 recently, looking back as an adult now, you have one of the most expressive faces in Hollywood, as far as I'm concerned, and your comedic timing is right on. Now, obviously, you said that's just something that comes natural to you, but who were your influences when you were growing up watching films?
When my mom let me do House 2, similar age to you, I think my influences, I think my biggest influences were actually people who weren't expressive, were Jack Benny and Bob Newhart. Jack Benny and Bob Newhart are my idols, and they didn't do much at all. I guess I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. I don't know who my influences were.
So it's just something that comes. I'm kind of a natural jerk myself, so I can understand.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty much just doing me. It wasn't really a character so much.
All right. Well, thank you for answering the question, and again, it's an honor to meet with you and talk with you. So I wish I had more time to talk to the rest of you guys, but I can definitely do more research.
And Val?
V?
I got one question each. It's like full-on lightning round. And so I'll start with the fellows in the play, Brian and Ryan. How does it feel to pick up these mantles? Like, are you like every time you perform, are you still a little like, hey, what if they see this? Like,
well, I know on my behalf. I mean, it was daunting at first, but then when you kind of get into it as an actor, you just take over the character and you make it your own. So I think once you kind of settle down and get past all the initial like, oh my God, this is Fright Night, and I'm playing Jerry Dandridge, and then make it and start really getting into the character, you kind of settle in it. But one thing that I had to say is like, knowing that Chris and John both had their stint on the soap opera, there's hope for me, because when I was out in LA, I did All My Children for a stint. So hey, I could follow in your footsteps there very easily.
It's the path.
It's the path, I guess.
This is the way.
Yeah,
there you go.
I knew that was coming.
I think that for me, whenever I was doing the play, the initial excitement of just being told by Jim that we have this amazing opportunity and here it is, you just you're kind of in shock a little bit for that. But whenever we were actually going through the play and every night, I just had such a great relationship with Brian as I'm sure Chris and Jonathan did on stage or on film. And we'd be backstage before we were going on, psyching each other up, and we kind of had to go out and we were shirtless at different times, so we'd be cheering each other on, doing some push-ups back before we had to go. Just like 5 more, get it.
Hey, Ryan, who could do the most push-ups between you and Brian?
Well, we never did them at the same time, so I'll just say it's probably even.
Okay. He's trying not to create bad. Thank you for creating this play. You've brought so much awesomeness into our life. You've expanded on this universe. Chris, big fan. Love you. I got to tell you, I have gotten more girlfriends with the lines that you have put out in that movie than any other actor, especially when you did this. I got my first kiss going, shh. John, loved you as Billy Cole, absolutely loved you as Charlie. I think you're an amazing writer, amazing actor, very talented. And I wish you both the best of luck.
Thank you.
Ryan and Brian, you guys are brilliant actors. I love you guys so much. You guys are amazing. Jim, I already said you're amazing. I'm skipping you. V, you're amazing. Mad, you're amazing. Wolfman, you have a hairy back.
Yeah.
All right.
Wait. We have a.
I would not say such things if I were you.
And we do have one request from our viewers there, guys.
Okay.
They would like the two Jerrys, to do a welcome to Fright Night off, I guess.
Actually, I prefer if Brian did it.
Good pressure, Brian.
Wow, like no pressure or anything. Wait a second, I need to prepare.
Yep. Okay. Clear your throat a little bit there. Go.
Okay. Welcome to Fright Night. For real.
Yeah, I can tell.
Yes.
He was looking right at my neck when he did that.
Look at that man smolder. Chris, John, thank you so much for doing this. This means the world to me.
Oh, my mark
to have you
not
here with my actors. Huge deal, and I can't express enough how much I really appreciate it as a fan, as an artist. Just having you in front of me and having you participate. It's so special to me, and I will always remember this. It really was fantastic of you both to participate.
Yes, thank you very much.
I agree.
For asking us, guys.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Much love, peace and love to you both, and stay healthy. Don't get the Rona. Stay away from it.
Keep checking your Fright Night websites and your fan things, because there's something coming.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you let us know as well.
Yes,
we will.
definitely. We'd love to get a heads up on that. All right. So I think we will end it here. I'm sure you guys are busy. You need to do something.
No.
Well, that's it. Foolish Fright fans. Thank you for tuning in to the Fright Night Show. My name is Johnny Black. You stay dark, everyone. Good night.
Good night.